Hey, welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Monday. We've hit the midway point of the month, October 16th, and the great Don Fischer joining us now. Sir, how are you?
I'm all right. How are you?
I cannot complain. That cold weather came in, or that fall weather came in over the weekend. A little bit of rain, a little temperature drop, 20-degree temperature drop. I saw some golfers out, but they were all in windbreakers and long pants. So it's the challenge of the golfers now, buddy. It's the true golfers out there.
Yeah, there's no question about that. The good news is I'm not a true golfer anymore because I don't get out there unless it's over 50 degrees. It's got to be 55 or something like that before I even decide to trek out there, or the wind's got to be down. If the wind wasn't blowing,
that makes a gigantic difference.
Oh, yeah. The wind's always blowing this time of year anyway. So I didn't get out yesterday. I was hoping to, but the sun came out for about 5 minutes yesterday. That was about it. And so I decided to stay home, watch the Colts on TV, and that was a bust. So,
yeah, we just finished up with Greg Rakestraw. So yeah, that didn't go well, but not a good weekend for Indiana football overall, period. The Hoosiers traveled to Ann Arbor, and no one expected much. Let's be honest. This is a team that many consider the number one team in the country. I still don't know if it's Washington or Michigan in my head, because Washington is such an offensive juggernaut that I'm like, I'd love to see Michigan try to keep up with that. At the same time, Michigan is they're machine-like. They are just machine-like, and they take one guy out and they bring another guy in. Their linemen, I think I saw a stat, their defensive linemen, no one has had over 30 snaps. There's like 9 or 10 of them. So it's just like they take this robot out and bring this one in. And I look at the stats, Don. J.J. McCarthy only throws for 222. Running back, no running back rush for over, including Blake Corum. He is 52 total yards. Right. Hall was 58. So no one had these gigantic output of days, and yet they're able to just crush Indiana, 52-7 overall. And then Indiana now back to, I guess, a quarterback not controversy, but quarterback race. Brendan Sorsby in, and I was happy to see that. I think that they've got to make a decision there, man, and give a guy the snaps that needs the snaps. I've said it was Sorsby from the start of the season, which doesn't mean jack, but here we are again.
Well, we are. That's exactly where we're at, because now we do have – it's not a controversy. It's literally trying to figure out who's going to be the guy. And now it also becomes a factor that Dexter Williams is in the mix, in the sense that he was listed as questionable on Saturday. He was dressed for the football game. And He's been practicing, trying to get back well again physically to compete for the spot. And perhaps now he has become that. So we're just going to have to wait and see, because now you may have a three-headed scenario where you've got to make a decision. And from what we've seen at this point, there just hasn't been consistency in the two redshirt freshmen, which we knew that was probably going to be an issue this year, because they are young guys. They're going to make mistakes. They still have lots to learn, and they haven't had the experience level that a player like Dexter has had, which, even though he played sparingly last year, he did get in several ball games and played well when he was in there, helped Indiana to a win over Michigan State. And believe me, I thought Purdue was on the ropes last year when he was in the ball game, if you remember watching that contest, because they didn't have any answer for him. But the truth of the matter is, when he went down, Indiana had no answer for Purdue. So literally at this point, there is a quarterback situation that has to be taken care of. And we're going to find out if that will take place this week or not, because if Williams can't go this week, that's fine. But at some point, he's going to become a factor, I think. And we'll just have to wait and see when that is.
And when he does, though, my question is, what is that going to do to the offense? Because I don't recall he threw 2 total passes in the game against Michigan State, which they won. Does that mean the passing game is out the window? Because his running just left people shaking in the, they didn't know which way to go.
Right.
He shocked Michigan State. And so I don't know what they would do with the offense. Will they go to a wildcat? Maybe there's just tons of different scenarios, but you cannot abandon the passing game.
No, you can't. And honestly, at this point, who's the better passer? Well, Saturday didn't show us anything because neither one of those guys performed well. The fact of the matter is, at this juncture, this football team can't run the football. They've got to throw it. If Dexter Williams comes into play, maybe they can run the football, and then maybe they can't pass it. I don't know. The honest to goodness truth is, the coaching staff has to make some decisions here that are going to be critical to the rest of the season. And if Dexter's ready to go, which he was listed as questionable on Saturday, which means he was available. So I just don't know which way they're going to lean at this juncture. And because Tom Allen has not been able to make a decision on who the quarterback is at this point, I just have that gut feeling that Dexter's going to be in the mix.
Well, there's no question, especially with them listing him on that report. And that was not the game I would bring him back. That was not the game I would bring Josh Henderson back. I expect Josh Henderson to be available next week as well. The Michigan game was not a game that I'm bringing a guy back off the injury list because you know what you're going against, and so it's just not the smart thing to do. Quickly, want to switch gears to basketball.
One other thing I want to say about the football side of it. I thought what we saw in the first quarter of that game by Indiana was pretty special.
Good. Absolutely.
I really like what Rod Carey did with the offense. It looked like they had it going in the early part of that contest. I don't think there's much question about that. I think there is definitely improvement in that area. What is that? How does that translate to the rest of the game? Well, not very well, because after that, Michigan woke up a little bit, and whether they were asleep or not, what Indiana did in the early going, I thought was impressive. Even defensively, I thought the defense clearly played well in the early going as well.
3 sacks, Don. 3 sacks in the first quarter alone, and he hadn't been sacked 3 times since the national semifinal game, and they end up getting 4 at least.
And that's what was encouraging, but it was just briefly encouraging. So it's going to be interesting now to see if this team can pick up the pieces. Because after you get beat 52-7 by a team that just absolutely dominated you for 3 quarters, you find out a little bit about yourself and whether or not you have that resiliency that we've talked about in the past, because this is a football team right now that still has all kinds of things to play for. They still have a chance of getting to a bowl game, but they've got to win 4 of their last 6. And I still think there are 4 games on the schedule they can win. But they've got to regroup, and they've got to start having confidence in themselves. And the defense that we saw early on that we thought would carry this team has got to get back to that point again, because they have not played well, in my opinion, for several games now.
Yeah, I sent out a couple tweets in the early going saying, hey, you got to like what you're seeing right now from the Indiana offense. They were moving things around. That's the first time Michigan has trailed this year when they were down 7-0. That is only the 5th touchdown all year that Michigan had given up. And Indiana was actually a heel out of bounds from scoring 14 points on Michigan and being the only team to have done that. So there were bright spots on the offense, and it's just getting it together. You've got a new offensive coordinator. Now he's trying to decide between quarterbacks. It's like preseason all over in the middle of the season. They just have to get it done expeditiously, I would say.
No question.
On the other side of things, great news for Indiana basketball as they land their first commitment of the 2024 season from a 5-star, Liam McNeeley from Montverde Academy, number 13, a power forward. It is nothing but champagne and cocktails all around in Bloomington when that happened.
Well, there's no question. I know McNeeley has been on their radar for a long time, a guy that they coveted because he is a great shooter, 6'8", shoots the outside jump shot with no reservations whatsoever, can knock it down. He's not the superstar athlete that some guys are, but you don't need to be if you can shoot it. But I mean, I can't answer the question about, I haven't seen enough of his highlights, that kind of thing. I have seen some. But he reminds me a little bit of a guy like Ted Kitchell. I think he's probably more athletic and quicker and that kind of thing than what Ted was. But he's got no qualms about shooting the basketball, and he is he's obviously a great outside shooter. So that's something that
45% from behind the arc last year, 40% right now this year.
Yeah, that's what they need. They need shooters. That's something that Indiana has needed for some time, as we know. And even though they've had a couple of guys that could knock down threes, but they didn't do it consistently. And this is a guy that can add that. The Dick kid from Kansas, the last year is now in the NBA. It might be that kind of player for this Indiana basketball team. And if they got a guy like that, it's going to be special. But at the same time, you just have to wait and see. It takes time to become a college basketball player. Everybody knows that. But this guy is highly regarded by everybody in the country. Who did it come down to? Indiana and Kansas for him?
Yes, and that is the second consecutive time Indiana has beat out not Kansas for this very position. And that's another major win for Mike Woodson. With Mackenzie Mbako, that was the same situation. It came down to he was originally at Duke, but then it came down to Kansas and Indiana, and he chooses Indiana. And so I had put out on the board, on the Hoosier.com board on Friday, that you can count on Liam being a commitment because Kansas had just taken the commitment from Marquise Passmore, who played the same position. And so I think that they had acknowledged, waved the white flag at that time and took him. But now you've got what's next? What can he do, or what comes after that? Because the first thing they also asked him is he's going to be in the ear of Boogie Fland. He said he's going to be talking to Derek Queen, his teammate. He wants them to come to Bloomington. So now Mike Woodson has a great recruiter that can actually start recruiting. He couldn't do that until he committed because he didn't know where he was going. But that is going to be of great importance because he's teammates with Derek Queen. So he's going to be talking to him all the time about, dude, come on up. We can play with Malik Renew. And then he's going to be talking to Boogie Fland as well. And I think that could carry weight. Not that it does or doesn't sometimes, but I think that they can see that there would be something special in that group. And I think that will have an impact maybe.
Well, it always does when a player goes and he's got friends out there that he wants to play with. Sometimes that plays a factor. So we'll just have to wait and see. But the truth of the matter is, at this juncture, Mike has gotten his first recruit for 2024, and it's a top 10 player, and everybody gets excited about that. And there's no question it's a coup for Mike, and that's a good thing.
And also, Indiana has not been in this position, first of all, for a long time, of being in these final 2 or 3 or 4, whatever, with all of these high-end recruits. We're not talking about top 100 guys, which are great. We're talking about top 10, top 15 players, and not 1, but 2, but 3. I think Boogie Fland is the top point guard in the country, and it's down to Indiana and Kentucky. And I think that when he sees that Indiana beat Kansas for this, and that's going to make a difference. When I promise you that Liam McNeeley will be calling him to say, "Hey, man, come join me." And I just think that you can see the difference Mike Woodson has been able to make. It has taken a year or two to really get in the flow. I think it took him probably a year to get in the flow of college recruiting because it's different. But I think he goes in and kills it. Obviously, especially for people who thought that he wasn't going to be able to put in the time. He's making the trips. He's going to New York going back to New York. He's going to Montverde. He's going wherever he needs to go to get that done. And that makes a difference. That these guys see that. That matters to them.
Well, as long as you get them and then you can coach them. That's the biggest thing. You got to be able to coach them. And I think Mike can do that. Well, I mean, obviously, Jalen Hood-Schifino was a terrific find for Indiana to get him. And what he did last year was really special for IU. Helped that ball club, pick up have one of its best seasons in a long time. Hopefully that continues. But right now, this will be a transition year, I think, for Indiana because of the losses of the guys that left because of graduation, that kind of thing. And then, of course, the transfer portal and the pickups there. You've got a team this year that's going to be, I think, a team that's a transition year. I don't know it's going to be that special. We'll see. Obviously, they've got talent on this ball club. Does it all come together? There are so many questions and so many things that can happen during a season that can make it or break it. And we'll just have to wait and see how it all plays out. But I do like the fact that Mike has been able to get a top Knights recruit here, and probably another one or two of those guys will probably join Liam McNeeley as on this Indiana basketball program for 2024.
Yeah, I expect at least one of them does, but we'll wait and see how that turns out. But Indiana recruiting, obviously turning in the right direction, and they've got to continue with a good season. So they don't have to win the NCAA championship, but I think a continued progressive move. And this is a team that is going to show the talents of Mike Woodson, because you're going to have to marry talent that he has had before with the new guys, whether we're talking about Mackenzie Mbako or Kelly Ware, even Peyton Sparks and Anthony Walker. These are all new faces that are going to be playing a lot, but are going to have to be blended in to what's going on. Don, what's up next for you? Obviously, Wednesday night, I think, out at Chop Shop.
Yep, we'll be at the Chop Shop with Coach Allen, inside IU basketball with the head coach. And I think Casey Teagarden is going to be our assistant coach guest this week. He'll be live at the Chop Shop as well for our last segment of the show. So, yeah, going to be fun this week. And then, of course, a Rutgers team coming in that Indiana will celebrate homecoming and hopefully come up with a big win and a bounce-back win after a couple of tough losses.